part two of this edition of TW Wrestling Talk. December 11th. Coming off what I said earlier was, pretty poor edition of Monday Night Raw, to say the least. Um, Pretty uneventful. Um, kind of just time filler to me. Um, just kind of WWE's way of saying we don't have anything really great to do. Um, on SmackDown, Big Show and Sheamus, they had their interesting contract signing. We already learned how the main event between Ryback and CM Punk now became a 3-on-3 tag match. Team Hell No with Ryback against the Shield. Um, we already basically learned that, you know, Dolph Ziggler will be facing John Cena, and unfortunately, Ziggler's Money in the Bank briefcase will be on the line, um, which I'm going to get to in a second, actually. And and then other than that, I mean, CM Punk, you know, things I mentioned earlier, CM Punk had with Paul Heyman had a short promo that seemed to end abruptly. Just wasn't expecting it to end, as soon as it did. It just, I don't know, it didn't. It was mostly just CM Punk, Paul Heyman, CM Punk, and um, saying that how CM Punk would be at the pay per view, watching. So wasn't too much, to do with CM Punk there. Even that he was injured. For once, it was like a CM Punk and Paul Heyman promo on the stage where no one interrupted them. So just kind of it was different, and it just kind of ended abruptly. You know the way it ended. So not too much there. Um, Again, overall, a pretty forgettable episode of Monday Night Raw. Um, so, but I'm not going to talk any more really about Raw, and you know, I'm going to focus. We're going to look towards the future here now. TLC is coming up. That's in Royal Rumble after that, and kind of the build up to WrestleMania. Um, 29 is already coming to surface. Um, I mean, TLC, it has some interesting matches. For the most, not as much implications are going to come out from the Shield and Ryback and Team Hell No match, but the the Dolph Ziggler and John Cena match in particular has big implications. Um, the way I see it, and I stressed this last week. Do you do the right thing? Do you have they're gonna have Dolph Ziggler win and keep his Money in the Bank, or do they kind of dwell in the past, with John Cena? I don't want to dismiss John Cena, as having any more of a future in WWE, but I mean, let's face it. I mean, the drone of the John Cena era here in WWE. An era that has been dominated by John Cena. Um, you know, that era cannot go on forever, and a guy like Dolph Ziggler is a guy that they can build up. They can keep his momentum going, and they can, in the long run, reap the benefits. Um, I mean, I really I do not see any benefit whatsoever in John Cena beating Dolph Ziggler for his Money in the Bank briefcase, um, unless WWE wants, you know, unless maybe it's gonna make, maybe 10,000 more John Cena T-shirts sell this holiday season. Other than that, there's not much of a point in having John Cena win, and you know and it made me question why they put Dolph Ziggler's briefcase on the line in the first place. Um, why they would why they would do that. Um, but that doesn't. I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that you know WWE is gonna make Ziggler lose his Money in the Bank. Maybe it's just a tease on WWE's part. Um, you know, especially towards people who don't like John Cena. The Cena haters out there, who probably didn't like it. Who probably would not like it, especially if Ziggler um, lost. Who a lot of these fans are behind, lost his Money in the Bank briefcase to John Cena. But I thought about it a little more, and I'm not as long as Dolph Ziggler wins this match. I guess it's all right that they put his briefcase on the line, because if Dolph Ziggler, retains his Money in the Bank briefcase, which I hope to God he does, um, that would only make that would refuel the momentum he had coming off of Survivor Series. Um, he had decent momentum coming off of that, and he would have more coming off of TLC. Um, because normally when a guy wins Money in the Bank briefcase, usually by now he's already cashed it in. He's already champion. Maybe he's already lost the championship. But I mean, Dolph Ziggler's had that briefcase for nearly 5 months now. Um, and if you know him holding on to it that long and not cashing it in, and then getting in a match with the guy who's billed as the face of the company, John Cena. If he would successfully win that match and defend it against John Cena successfully, that would only make it a bigger deal when he cashes in and becomes champion. So I'm hoping that's what WWE is doing. Part of the maybe they're thinking that maybe they just did it for the hell of it. I don't really know, because sometimes WWE does literally just kind of do things like this just for the heck of it, and it's not always a good idea sometimes. But here, I guess I'm making a little bit more of an exception. So long as Dolph Ziggler wins this match, which he must. I mean, the past few weeks since Survivor Series, he lost to John Cena. He lost last week in the tag match. He took the pinfall. This week, I mean, he disqualified himself really in that match with Sheamus, which was kind of thrown together. Not too much of a point to it. And earlier he was pushed off the ladder. Um, not it hasn't been a great few weeks for Dolph Ziggler. And this would be a great chance for him to redeem him, kind of, you know, refuel that momentum I was talking about earlier. Keep it going towards the future, towards, the build up to WrestleMania, towards until when he cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Which, by the way, they further emphasized on this edition of Monday Night Raw, which I was talking about last week, how that case was meant to be used against, it was cut out to be used against the World Heavyweight Champion, not the WWE Championship, exclusively the World Heavyweight Championship. Um, and, it was a little bit one of those moments where, I'm almost thinking, did one of WWE's writers or yeah, creative team members catch what I said last week on TW Wrestling Talk? More wishful thinking there, but me thinking that I brought that up last week. One of the flaws of doing this, and WWE kind of you know brought up again that was which it hadn't in a while, but that briefcase that Ziggler won is meant for the World Heavyweight Championship exclusively. So, and again, John Cena's, typically he's a Raw only superstar. It's been an exception in recent weeks, but I can't see that exception, going on forever. Um, that's just the way WWE is at this time. So, uh, all in all, with this whole thing, Cena, I don't see him winning it. Um, again, he would be then going after the World Heavyweight Championship more on SmackDown. Um, after possibly Sheamus, Big Show, and not too long ago he feuded with Big Show, and at this time, given that Sheamus is a face and they've been kind of focusing more on Sheamus as being the top face on that brand. I don't see that happening right now. John Cena taking this briefcase from Dolph Ziggler, and I hope he doesn't. Because Ziggler needs his case more. Ziggler needs the World Heavyweight Championship more than John Cena, and Ziggler needs a win like this over, guy like John Cena. John Cena doesn't need to get over here, um, by any means. So, again, does WWE do the right thing and have Dolph Ziggler, win? And maybe, he kind of transcends that upper mid card level a little more and perhaps um, becomes a main event player, now for years to come more. I think that this match could really put him on a new level, and I hope WWE has Dolph Ziggler retain his Money in the Bank successfully at tables, ladders, and chairs. And without further